Is the camera still rolling?
I assume it is. I've forgotten what our discussion was about.
Oh, I was supposed to say who you are. Who are you?
We've both forgotten.
I haven't forgotten who I am.
The garden plus the animals, we provide about 70% of our food needs. At the end of the day, you can walk in with an armload full of produce like this.
Well, SUZY the Simple Man's an extraordinarily intimate story about two people who live in remote Western Victoria, and they live off the grid, a sustainable life, and in many ways they live the perfect life, but like so often happens, something comes along and changes their world dramatically. She's a black belt in karate and trained to be a midwife and an adventurer, and her partner John Muir is one of Australia's greatest explorers. He's climbed Everest and walked to the South Pole and North Pole and walked solo across Australia. They're two of the most remarkable characters I've ever seen. Well, the story changed over the course of the 8 years quite dramatically, that it was really going to be a story about sustainability and living off the grid and a couple who are in search of happiness, and I was exploring those sorts of questions too, as to whether you can find true happiness by living your truth. But then there was a dramatic sort of twist in the story halfway through, and you can never plan for these things, and I think sometimes the best documentaries are ones where you start with one particular line and end up with something quite different, and we had the flexibility to do that, and that's one of the great things about having time, that over 8 years you're not locked into a certain story, you can just let it develop. Well, I think whenever you're making a documentary, things are going to change that are out of your control, and there are some things that happened with the characters that were out of their control, and that made it quite challenging from a director's point of view, as we felt for many years that maybe the film would never actually see the light of day, that it was put on hold for a while whilst the characters were dealing with some major issues in their life. But I hope everyone leaves the theatre having profound conversations in the car with their partners or whoever they've seen it with on the way home, because it's a film that actually raises a lot more questions than provides answers, and they're universal questions about life and living our truth and our own mortality. And I think that the gentleness and the honesty of this film will lead to some beautiful conversations. And so I think that would be the great thing. I think that everyone actually goes to areas in their own heart that perhaps they wouldn't have before seeing the film.